Okay, let's talk about something that most people experience at some point in their life, but not everyone is willing to admit it, or not everyone is able to even see when they're doing it, which is playing small. And it's those quiet moments where you know you're capable of more, but you hold back anyway when you have an idea or a goal or something that you want to go after. And instead of moving forward with courage and confidence, you hesitate or you overthink or you delay and you tell yourself, well, not yet, or not now, or maybe later, or maybe never. And on the surface, it never seems like a big entire problem. Okay, you're still doing life, you're still getting things done, and you're still showing up and keeping yourself busy in lots of different ways. But underneath, okay, you've probably felt that quiet awareness that you're not really showing up as a person that you know you have the potential to be. And that little gap, okay, between who you are right now and who you know you could be if you were just to, play life and do life a little bit bigger, dream a little bit bigger, okay? That little gap is where we are playing our small life. And today I want to open up and ask me anything call, because this is not just about motivation or pushing yourself harder. It's about truly understanding like why we do this. Why do we play small? What is it costing us? And how to actually start stepping into something bigger without waiting until you feel completely ready, okay? For most of the things that you desire in your life, you don't have to feel ready in order to take action. So if you've been feeling stuck or frustrated with yourself, or you feel like you're circling the same goals without ever actually moving forward, you're going to be in the right place. So the first question that I have is, how do I know if I'm just playing small or just being realistic? I love that we started with this, because really when it comes to life, so many people tell themselves that they're not really being, they're not playing small, they're just being realistic. But what is actually happening, and I'm going to share with you exactly how this plays out, is they're not being realistic. They're just being protective. They're staying inside their comfort zone. And when you tell yourself that you're being realistic, it sounds so logical. It sounds very mature. It's like, I've thought things through and this is the way that it's supposed to be. But the problem is that fear is often the reason why, what's driving their decisions. And it sounds very logical. It's when you tell yourself, I just need to be more prepared, or I need to, wait till things settle down, or I need to, wait for X, Y, Z to fall into place before I take action. And on the surface, it sounds very realistic and logical. But if you were to dig in deep, you would find that it's actually fear that is holding you back. And even though those thoughts feel very reasonable or realistic, you don't even go ahead and question them. You don't even go digging in deeper to work out, is it something else that's holding you back? Whether it's fear. Most of the time, it's fear. And so, a better question to ask yourself is, are the decisions that you're making every day keeping you safe? Okay, keeping you in the same spot, or are they actually moving you forward? Because you don't want to tell yourself the same story, I'm going to do it later, or now's not the right time, if in the end you never actually move forward. Because being realistic doesn't equal staying stuck in the same place long term. Okay, you can be realistic about your abilities and still take action. You can be realistic and still make decisions, okay? Being realistic is not the same as something that is obviously keeping you stuck. And so if you are thinking thoughts that are actually keeping you stuck in the same place, okay, that is when I would be able to pinpoint that you're actually just playing small, okay? Just want to make sure that you're realistic, the words that you're telling yourself. It's dressed up as wisdom when it's really fear. And so if your realistic plan looks exactly the same as your comfort zone, you're not being realistic, you are just playing small. Okay, next question. What if I play bigger and fail? Oh, well, I would be saying just expect to fail. Of course, you're going to fail sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. It's part of growth. And I know that that's a thing that most people try to avoid at all costs. They think that failure, going back to the days when they were at school, as if that was a terrible thing. But in actual fact, that's how you learn like what does work and doesn't work in life, is by trying and gleaming all the wisdom that you get from your experiences. Not everything's going to work, okay? But you fail ahead of time by doing nothing. Okay, whereas you have the option of failing forward by doing something, learning from that experience, and move forward. So if you are sitting there thinking, well, what if I do fail? Just expect that you are going to fail by taking action, and then you learn, and then you learn from that experience and you take with it what is necessary to move you forward, versus failing by doing nothing. Okay, you're going to fail using your potential, fail following through on what matters, failing building a life that you actually want if you do nothing. And so rather than staying comfortable and rather than doing nothing, just understand that playing small is not neutral. There's always a cost attached to it. And so I guess the real question is like, are you willing to risk failure, like, and potentially like achieve what it is that you're after, or stay safe and do nothing and fail ahead of time? Okay, because the real like that comes down to, you're going to have the regret because you didn't try, or the short-term discomfort that comes with a real chance of growth. Okay, but failure will always give you feedback. Just be aware of it. Whereas playing small gives you nothing, just keeps you stuck in the same spot. And so I guess a key distinction when it comes to playing bigger and playing small in life, you're not choosing between success and failure. You're choosing between growing in life, versus staying stuck and doing nothing. Next question is, I don't feel comfortable enough to go bigger. That's okay. Most people actually think that they need to be confident in order to take action, or, I've got to be more confident before I take action. But we forget that the way we become confident, okay, it's a result of taking action. It's not the precursor to taking action. It's a thing that you get from taking action. And so think about that. I always use the example of learning to drive a car. You didn't start confident as a driver. You became that through repetition, practice, and so forth. And so the real sequence is, you take action while you're unsteady, while you're unsure, and then you survive it. Your brain gathers evidence that you can do it. And then your brain like updates. It's like, my gosh, okay, I did that thing. I didn't fall apart. And that is how your confidence grows. So if you're waiting for confidence first, you're just like messing up the entire process. It's not going to work in that way. If you're stuck in this loop of like, I'm going to do it when I feel more confident or when I feel more ready, like ready and confidence, that's not going to come. You need to start with that willingness and courage to move forward and just try and do things messily versus being confident in the first place. Like, you got to be willing to be a beginner, willing to do it imperfectly, very messily, and willing definitely to feel a little bit uncomfortable, because confidence is built by being willing to move forward before you feel that way. Next question is, what if people judge me? They will. I feel like all the things that you expect are going to happen are probably going to happen. And it doesn't have to be a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem. Okay, you have to take away this illusion that there's going to be a version of your life where no one has an opinion. People can have an opinion of you even when you're playing small. People can have an opinion of you when you're staying stuck. People are going to judge you when you're trying something new, staying the same, speaking up, staying quiet. So judgment is unavoidable. And knowing that judgment is unavoidable, so I guess the real question is, whose opinion do you want to care most about? Who are you living for? And so when you're playing small to avoid other people's judgment, what you're actually doing is you're outsourcing your life decisions to other people who aren't living like, they're not walking in your shoes. And so most people don't realize that even if someone does judge you, like, they move on. They've got their own life to worry about. They go back to their own lives, their own worries, their own problems. But you are going to stay stuck in the consequence of the decision that you made to play small if you're always going to be worried about other people. And so you can be judged for playing small or judged for playing big. And only one of them is going to give you the life that you are proud of. Next question is, I don't have a time to go after my bigger goals. Most of the time, it is not about time. It is about how your time is being used. Because if you were to zoom in honestly, you'd often find that you spend, let's just say, time scrolling, time overthinking, time avoiding the thing that actually matters. You've got time for stuff. It's not always the stuff that's truly important. And so when you talk about this idea of like not having enough time to go after your bigger goals, that could just be a big fat lie that you're telling yourself. You're not just redirecting the time that you do have towards your goals. And maybe you're doing it intentionally because you're resisting, because there's always discomfort that comes from chasing your goals. You got the discomfort of starting, discomfort of stepping outside your comfort zone, discomfort of not knowing how it's going to go, facing possible failure. And so, of course, it's easier to stay, like doing the easier tasks. And that's why we often, like, so many people feel so busy all day long. You can keep yourself busy, but not actually move forward. And so I guess the approach is, you don't have to find more time, okay? Our time is limited. We've got 24 hours a day. But it's deciding that what you want matters enough to give it protected time. Like, you're going to make the time for the things that are truly most important to you. And even if it's just 20 minutes a day, but you do it consistently, okay, that is always going to be like hours of like occasional effort and then nothing for, a long time at a stretch. So just remember, you don't need more time. You just need to make a clearer decision about what truly matters and where you are currently, exerting all your time, energy, and focus. Next question is, how do I stop overthinking everything before I act? Overthinking is often seen as a thinking problem, okay? Your brain is always trying to predict every outcome, eliminate all the risks, guarantee success before you begin. And what it's trying to do is an impossible feat because you can't have all the answers. You can't, have a crystal ball that's going to tell you what's going to happen in the future. And if you're waiting there to take action before you have all the answers, you're going to stay stuck, in paralysis, or even just analyzing all the decisions. And you might think that's really productive to be sitting there waiting. Okay, but once again, you're not moving forward. And so I want you to stop using thinking as a substitute for taking action. Instead of think, maybe act, you need to decide, take action, learn from those actions, adjust and pivot and so forth, whatever, because the action is the thing that gives you the data that you need to move forward. And the data is going to be the thing that gives you the clarity. But if you're overthinking, okay, you're going to be, delaying both. And the other thing that I always like to say is that no one's ever going to complain if they're overthinking positive thoughts. If your mind was running crazy with how much you believe in yourself, how much, potential you have, how you can always work things out, and how you have it in you to keep on going, most of us wouldn't consider that to be a terrible thing. It's when you're overthinking on the worst case scenario and so forth. And so I just recommend, less thinking, or a set amount of thinking. You think things, and then you make a decision, and then you move forward, and you speed up that process, okay? Because the answers that you're looking for aren't going to come before you act, okay? It's something you created for yourself because you took action. Next question, what's a sign that someone is playing small if I cannot see this in myself? It's always going to be, and it's not like taking zero action, because you can be active, you can be busy, but it's when you're not advancing at all. It's like when you're learning, but you're not applying what you're learning, when you're planning, but you're not actually executing your plans. It's when you're tweaking, but you're never actually launching anything. And it does feel like progress because there's movement, like the movement, but there's no actual shift. Okay, and this is probably one of the most dangerous forms of playing small, because it does look productive to you. And you can tell yourself, but I am working on it, but nothing actually changes. And so the key question here is what have you done with what you've known, with what you know? Because knowledge, they always say knowledge is power, but it's actually not. Knowledge is only power when you actually pair it with aligned action. Okay, so if your effort isn't creating results for you, it just might be that you're creating this illusion of progress, but you're not actually moving forward. So that's how you can tell, okay? I hope that's clear. Next question is, how do I actually start playing bigger today? Just start by making that decision, okay? You identify the thing that you've been avoiding. Okay, you probably already know what it is. You make it a little bit smaller. I'm all for baby steps, okay? Not easier, just doable. Something you can do in the next 5 minutes, the next 10 minutes. And then you take action in the next 24 hours. Not next week, not later, not when you feel ready. You just take action, okay? You set that time constraint, because whenever you set that timeline, that speed, to do it in the next 24 hours, it just breaks that hesitation cycle. And the goal is never to do anything perfectly. It's just to take messy action. And once you're moving, once you're in the act of doing things towards your, working towards your goals, you're going to find that your thinking becomes clearer. The resistance starts to decrease because you're doing it in tiny little chunks, and your confidence is going to build because you are taking action. Next question is, what's the real cost of playing small? It's so much deeper than most people expect. It's not just less money, slow progress, not actually having what you desire. I would say that it's often the internal feelings that you experience, that quiet frustration. It always feels like your soul is dying inside you. The loss of self-trust that you experience in yourself because you know you're letting yourself down. Or just even that feeling of I am capable of more, but I'm just not doing it. And it gives you that sense of regret. And if you indulge in playing small for way too long, the gap between who you are and who you know that you could potentially be gets wider, and then that resentment sort of builds in that middle. And it's not even towards anyone else, it ends up being towards yourself, because you can't unknow your potential. And ignoring your potential, of course, has a cost. And it's not just the things that you don't achieve, it's the version of you that you slowly stop becoming and the way that you feel inside. Next question is, how do I stop shrinking myself around others? Most of the time the reason we do this, and I know because I experienced this myself as a kid, is that we learn to be agreeable, not to rock the boat, to keep things very comfortable. And so we do this as kids because we get approval and then we avoid conflict. And over time, like, we carry this into our adult years where you start editing your opinions, your goals, your desires so that you can stay, accepted. Like, you have those fears from when you were young that you didn't want to be someone that people thought was a show off or too loud or whatever. But the problem is that you accept, and you end up becoming this version of yourself that isn't the real you. The real you is inside you, like fighting and wanting to come out. And so, in order to get past this, your question was like, how do I stop shrinking myself? Is just, are you willing to do things that are true to you? Are you willing to just, be authentic? Rather than thinking like, is it going to make other people feel comfortable? It's like, are the actions that I'm taking, are they right for me? Are they true to me? Not everyone has to like what you're doing, okay? But it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you are focused more inward versus outward. You're focused on your own path. And if you are shrinking to stay connected to other people, you're not being fully seeing yourself because you're not even showing them the real you. And you're going to find it so much freedom comes from just being honest about your goals, about your desires, about what you want, and so forth. Question, why do I keep on playing small even when I know that I am doing it? Okay, that's such a great question because most of it's like, how do I even know that I'm doing it? But once you have that awareness, it's like, oh my gosh, like I can so see it clearly. And people often think that like awareness is enough to change their behavior, but awareness isn't going to be the thing that, like I said before, knowledge is power, but not unless you pair it with aligned action. And if to date, playing small has helped you avoid rejection and failure and discomfort, you got to step outside your comfort zone. We've probably gotten used to the fact that your brain is, going to see that as a better option. Of course, it wants you to play it safe. Play it safe and playing small are often very connected. And so even when you know that I'm doing it, like you say, like I realize I am doing it, there's going to be a part of the brain that says, yeah, and it feels safer. Okay? You're going to stay stuck in your comfort zone where nothing terrible can happen. And so you have to be aware that putting yourself out there is going to require you to experience discomfort that you may not have been used to, especially if you're not, haven't done it for so many years or decades. And staying quiet is going to protect you from being judged and all the negative feelings. Okay? But once you have this awareness, remember, like I said, you've got to pair it with aligned action. And so understand that when it comes to this, like what feels safe, staying inside your comfort zone, all things like, we're not living in the caveman days anymore. But in this current time, like stepping outside your comfort zone, if it's taking you to where you want to go, it is still going to feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort is going to have something different waiting for you on the other side. It's like that quote, everything that you want lies on the other side of your fears. And it's like walking towards that, choosing those actions, even though it's going to be difficult, even though it's going to be, uncomfortable, and that it's not always going to be a smooth road, but the awareness needs to have action paired with it, okay? Just tiny little baby steps. Next question is playing small ever a good thing? There are definitely going to be seasons in your life where pulling back is, smart. Like if you're feeling burnt out, if you're going through a season where you're grieving someone or you're feeling totally overwhelmed, then going slower when you were like intentionally choosing to do so is not playing small, okay? That's just like rest and recovery. Now, where people get stuck is that they turn those seasons, it almost becomes like who they are. They live in that season. It's like, well, I'm just not someone who goes big, I'm in my quiet phase, I'll get back to it later. Because those low seasons, even though we often, lean towards them because out of necessity, in the beginning, you discover that it's actually like really cruisy in your comfort zone, even if there is that discomfort and frustration and discomfort from knowing that you're playing small. So I guess the question you have to think about is playing small a good thing? If you're in a season where truly you need it, where you're resting and it feels like relief and restoration and you've chosen it intentionally, that is a good thing. If you're playing small and it feels like you're avoiding something important, you're getting frustrated at yourself and you have this feeling of discontent in you, then it's probably not a good thing. Okay. And so then you can ask yourself, like, am I intentionally choosing to, be quieter? Or am I using this to avoid, this season to avoid actually doing what needs to be done? In terms of like, there's nothing that needs to be done unless you desire to go after your goals. Okay, what if I've been playing small for years and so where would I even begin? It does feel like sometimes that the gap is like when it's really wide, it feels overwhelming. But I want you to think about like where you are now and where you could be or where you desire to be, and know that there is just a bridge that you just need to walk to get to the other side. Okay, but if you're doing nothing, okay, you won't be taking any steps towards it. But you just got to slowly, like if you've been doing it for so many years, you've always got to stay small, because that is how you build that self trust. Like you make those little promises. I always say, keep the promises that you make to yourself. If you said that I am going to go for a 2 minute walk, you go for that 2 minute walk. Okay, rather than having your brain, stay stuck in this identity. Well, I don't follow through. You've got to start proving to yourself that you do follow through. And so make those little small promises to yourself, okay? Work on it for 10 minutes. Say that you're going to work on it for 10 minutes and then work on it for 10 minutes. Just finish that one thing and then do it, okay? That is the way that you start, okay? All you're doing is rebuilding the trust that you have in yourself, that what you say you will do, you will follow through on. And it does not have to be anything massive. It can just be a tiny little baby step. Okay. And then, as you know, I think that we all know the fable, the tortoise and the hare. The way that the tortoise got to the finish line was just kept on moving very slowly and surely. Next question is, how do I handle the discomfort that comes from playing big? There is definitely discomfort. Now, I think that the reason why I have never shied away from stepping outside my comfort zone is because I've always expected that it was going to be uncomfortable. Okay? Most people see discomfort and consider it to be a sign that they have to stop, but something feeling uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that it's new, like you're doing something new. Because every time that you are doing something outside your comfort zone, of course, you're feeling uncomfortable. And your body you feel it inside your body, but not because it's dangerous. It's because it's simply unfamiliar. You might have an example where you are going out, let's just say to a party that you've never met most of the people there before. You might know one person. Even though, of course, it's not a dangerous situation. Of course, you're gonna walk in, you're gonna know that one friend. It still always feels awkward for us whenever we're doing something new. And I think that if you expect that it will, and how do you actually handle it? Well, number one is expecting it and stating that this is just I'm only feeling uncomfortable. Okay, it's nothing dangerous is happening. And then remember, for me, the biggest connection and the most helpful piece has been understanding that the discomfort is usually a sign that you are growing, a sign that you are stretching yourself. And that is a wonderful thing. Okay, if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, and obviously the skill of learning to be comfortable with the discomfort is an amazing one to take on board. But it's just a sign that you are growing. And so start to see that discomfort is not danger. It's a sign that you are growing. If it's to do with, I'm not talking about anything truly dangerous, like stepping out in front of a car. We're talking about when you're working towards your goals. Question, what if I don't actually know what playing bigger looks like for me in life? People make the mistake of thinking that they have to have the full vision before they take action. And you don't. There's no such thing as a crystal ball that is going to predict your future. All the clarity that you're looking for and the next steps that you are, because I always think I always focus on one step at a time. That's always been my strategy. What's my next right move? Take that move. And then knowing that it's going to reveal to me, the next step will be revealed after I've done that. So understand that the clarity that you're looking for with any goal is built via action, okay? Not before it. And so this idea that you have to have this whole amazing vision, that you could quite clearly paint it out, it doesn't have to be that way. You can just have a little goal and be led in that direction, and all the steps will become evident to you. So that's why I'm always talking about trusting your intuition, doing what feels right to you, and asking yourself, what is it that I'm currently avoiding when I know that it matters to me? Because that's usually the doorway that you got to lean towards, the thing that you know that you need to do in order to get to your goals, and you're avoiding it. I say move towards, lean towards that doorway, open that door and step through, okay? Because playing bigger is often as simple as just doing the thing that you keep on putting off, okay? So what are you putting off that you know you need to do? Okay, and that's what you need to work towards. And so if you're wondering well, what do I do next? Okay, what's the thing that you're avoiding? Okay, and then you do that thing. So that's where you start. Next question is, why do I start strong and then I shrink back again? Well, part of it's like being a human, this tendency to want to shrink back. But if you are like following a pattern like that where you start and you feel good and you hit a resistance or it gets really uncomfortable, then you stop and then you like do nothing, chances are that you might have reinforced this pattern over the years. Like you now see yourself as someone who doesn't follow through. And so the moment you shrink back, you don't know that you have the option to pick yourself back up again. It's like falling down, picking yourself back up again. And so whenever something feels very uncomfortable, okay, because when you say you start strong, okay, you're probably feeling very motivated, even though I always say motivation is the most fleeting emotion. It's not going to be the one that carries you to the finish line. Okay, the things that carry you to the finish line are going to be courage and commitment, perseverance, and having that desire. And so you're probably just shrinking the moment that things get uncomfortable. Okay? And so, like I said before, discomfort is a sign that you are stretching and that you are growing. And you can always ask yourself, like, well, how do I want to show up when moments are hard? How do I want to keep on going? How can you be more kind and compassionate to yourself and encourage yourself to keep on moving in the right direction? Because so many of us are our own worst enemy in terms of like the way that we speak to ourselves. And we think that if we berate ourselves inside our brain, that's going to help us, move forward. In actual fact, it's going to want to encourage us to shrink more. So you've got to make sure that you are being your best cheerleader, your best supporter when it comes to any goal that you're working towards. And in order to play bigger, you definitely need to make sure that your thoughts are the way that your mindset is having that, like thinking bigger about yourself and thinking bigger about your potential and reminding yourself of the fact. Next question is, how do I stop comparing myself to others and shrinking because of it? Well, comparing yourself, I should just say like that, because we often think, oh, we shouldn't compare ourselves to others. There's nothing wrong with using someone as your inspiration if it inspires you to move forward and to keep on going, if they're a symbol to you of, an example of what is possible. But if you are comparing yourself to others and then berating yourself, and then using that as a reason to not move forward, that is when you absolutely need to nip it in the bud. Because the thing that happens when you are, looking sideways, like taking your eyes off your own path and looking sideways, is you're usually going to see someone who's more further along or more experienced or someone who started earlier. I've often found that to be true. And so your brain's going to think, well, they're better than me. Whereas a more useful way of, like if you have to look sideways, that is just information, okay? Instead of saying, why am I not there yet? If they're inspiring to you, you could say, what are some things that they have tried that I have not yet, like that I'm not yet doing, that I can take from them? Like what's a wisdom I can glean from them to move you forward, okay? Because comparison doesn't have to make you feel like total crap. It's a story that you tell yourself. Like you look sideways and then you tell yourself a negative story. But if you are looking at anyone and thinking, my gosh, like that is so cool that they did that. That is so amazing. If they can do it, there's no reason I can do it. Okay, different way of like using that information. Just make sure that the comparing that you do is moving you forward. And if anyone makes you feel like just, I don't know, not great about yourself, then just like unfollow, delete, and move forward, okay? If you ever have to look to anyone else, make sure that you're doing it for inspiration alone and using it as energy to fuel your progress. Next question is, what if I succeed and then can't handle it? Okay, well, most of the time you won't even know whether that's true yet. But it's so funny how like people, fear failure and then they don't realize that they fear success as well. Because either way, like success will bring change. It's probably going to bring more visibility, more expectations, more responsibility. And so people often stay small because it thinks, well, I'm in my comfort zone. This feels really manageable. But you don't have to be ready for success before it happens. I want you to consider that you can grow into it as you move into that space, okay? If success is something that comes your way. Because I want you to think about anything that you've handled in your life so far. You weren't fully ready for it beforehand. You adapted, you figured it out. This is really no different. Just know that you don't have to be the person that doesn't, can handle it yet, but you will become it when it, by stepping into it and having this mindset that you can figure anything out that comes your way. Okay, you can handle whatever comes your way and you can figure things out. Question, how do I stop waiting for the right time? Well, you could tell yourself, like, firstly, that there is no such thing as the right time. Okay, There is always, always, always going to be something going on, something uncertain, challenges and obstacles coming your way, something that's undone. And so if you're sitting there waiting, okay, we can do it so often that becomes a habit. And so it's almost like you've tricked yourself into thinking, well, I'll wait till things settle down, but they never do. So it's like you've gotten yourself off the hook. And so I always say, like, there's no right time, there's no ready, you just do it. You start before you feel ready. You start before it feels right, okay? And then you're making that little progress, and starting before everything feels perfect is going to be the thing that makes you, gives you the confidence and the courage to move forward, okay? So you start, even if it's messy, if it's imperfect, and it doesn't need to be any other way, okay? There's never a right time, okay? There's only the way that you show up in each moment, even in the messy moments. Next question, I think this is the final one. What's one belief that I need to let go of in order to stop playing small? I'm glad that you pinpointed that it's definitely a thought that you need to release, probably. But most of the reason why people play small is that they believe things like, well, I need to feel ready first. I can't handle failure. So I'll go by them. I need to feel ready first, when that's not true. You start before you're ready. I can't handle failure, even though failure is just going to give you feedback to move forward. And you will, whether you like it or not, you're going to handle it. You're going to pick yourself back up. But what you do with that information is going to come down to back to you. Or that you need other people's approval, which is definitely going to keep you playing small. And if you're telling yourself stories like that, it's not going to serve you, okay? The biggest indicator of thoughts that help you and thoughts that hold you back is how they make you feel. And so if you find it really hard to just, ditch them altogether, replace them with something different. I can figure things out as I go. I can handle discomfort. I can learn how to handle discomfort. I'm allowed to choose my own path. I'm allowed to stay focused on my own path. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks, and so forth and so forth and so forth, okay? And then obviously, if you have followed me for a while, and you'll know that my background in psychology is all about, your thoughts are going to impact the way that you feel and how you show up and the results in your life, and your behavior is going to follow the beliefs that you have. And so when you change your beliefs, change the way that you think about yourself and about the actions that you're taking, your actions are naturally going to shift as well. And so playing small is never about your ability. It's about the story that you're believing about yourself. And the penny's in our hand, so we can always, always, always rewrite that story. Okay, so I've gone through my questions. And if you have been listening to this and thinking, okay, this is so me, I can see when I have been playing small, I can see those patterns, and that awareness is powerful. I think I already mentioned that awareness on its own doesn't change your life. Okay, it's always got to be paired with aligned action. And the real work is never, just seeing that you're playing small, because you don't want to be someone who has gone through this and says, well, I'm just someone who plays small. We got to change that. It's now time to learn how to think differently and show up differently and follow through consistently, even when it's uncomfortable. And that is exactly why I created Inspiring Life Academy. It's not just one course or one idea. It's my complete system to help you stop overthinking and build self-trust and actually take action on the things that are truly most important to you, the things that truly matter most to you. And at this point in time, there are over 90 plus courses and coaching roadmaps. My entire ecosystem has gone into the academy. As long as you know that playing bigger is nothing to do with motivation, okay? It's about having the tools and the strategy and the support to keep you going even on the days that you don't feel like it, because most of the time, let's be honest, we won't. And if you are tired of recognizing that you are playing small and you still find yourself stuck in those same patterns, this is where the change is truly going to shift for you. This is where it begins, okay, by doing things differently, okay, by embracing strategies that work and then having someone quite literally guide you down a different path, okay? Because I know that inside Inspiring Life Academy, I've never just tell you what to do. I show you how to actually shift the way that you do things, every single thing. And then once you've done that, when you have those little steps that you're embracing, the actions will naturally follow. And so instead of overthinking everything and second guessing yourself and starting and stopping, you just naturally become a person who makes those decisions more easily, follows through, and actually builds momentum because you're taking those aligned actions and you've got that support. It's almost like having that, a virtual life coach guiding you every step of the way, so you never feel as if you are alone and never feel as if you aren't supported, because you can tap into it quite literally every single day for the rest of, however long, however many years it continues and decades it continues to exist, because I just keep on adding to it. And so if you're ready to stop sitting on the sidelines of your own life and start showing up in a better way, you are welcome to join me inside Inspiring Life Academy using the link below. And it's also over at inspiringmumlife.com/academy. And the reality is, the one thing that I want you to walk away with is understanding that you don't need more time. Okay, you've got all the time that you need to make this happen, and you don't need to feel more ready. You can start as is. And if anything, you've only just got to make one decision, that you are no longer available for playing small, because you know just how crappy it is to feel that way. The resentment and the discontent and all that stuff. And you don't want to come to the end of a life and feel like you could have, done things differently, where the time to do things differently is right now. Like, you start planting those seeds now, because playing safe, playing small feels very safe in the moment. But over time, like if you play small consistently, it just is quietly going to steal your life over time. And at some point, you just have to, decide, do you want to go through your entire life just staying comfortable and small and stuck? Or am I actually willing to live it like fully? Take the reins of every single day and intentionally decide how you want to think, how you want to show up. The relationships that you want to create for yourself, that is all created by setting that intention, making that decision, and then continuing to plant those seeds every day, take those aligned actions, which is what I'm here to support you with inside Inspiring Life Academy. Okay, I have absolutely loved teaching you or answering the questions that you had about playing small. I hope this has been helpful. I am Frances Vidakovic, and I look forward to connecting with you again.